Hi, I'm Sandy Schreck for LBR Educates, and a rising trend that we're seeing is called the meadow trend. It's really coming out of that more garden influence and a little bit different look that we're seeing for our events and weddings. It features a lot smaller flowers. So here you can see an example that I've created. And so it has all of the things in like vegetative patterns where it's growing up. There is transparency through the elements so that you could use it as a table runner rather than just the straight table runners that we've been seeing. So we're also going to be creating this today in a serpentine pattern. So I've taken an Oasis wreath and I've cut it into 3 portions. And so we're going to create this design in that serpentine pattern. So let's take a look at creating this meadow. So in creating this design, what I said is I took a third of a Oasis wreath. Now you could do this on brick trays and stuff and set them all at an angle. But on here, we're just starting with this Oasis wreath. And these do now come in the midnight color as well. To start off with, I'm just placing some Plumosa on here. It's a green that I'll be able to poke through easily, and it gives me that kind of garden influence. You can see that I'm just laying them in and coming around the frame, and then I'm gonna come around the outside of the frame too, laying that in sideways. And that way I get that great coverage, and the curve of the Plumosa just goes right along the curve of the wreath, and we're able to just disguise that wreath really fast and easy. All right, so as we're starting to insert our flowers, we're gonna come in, and you wanna go into the nice meat of the foam and get a good insertion that's going down into the base of that wreath frame. And so we're gonna start with a couple over on that side, and then bring a couple shorter ones in over in here. And just coming back and forth. Adding some unique material like this green kangaroo paw is a great way to add interest in your design. So as you're coming in, I'm gonna have these come a little bit forwards and backwards. And so we want to have some interaction between the front and the back of this design. And so I'm just bringing those different elements in throughout. Micro proms are another way to capture inexpensive material and utilize something that feels like it would be growing out in the field. So rather than some of the daisies, larger daisies, to use a micro palm is a great way to add some visual interest. All right, we need to make this shorter because we have to remember about the transparency. So if we use this as a centerpiece, the same rule applies, that you do want to have a visual path coming across the tabletop there for your viewing of your attendees. So you can see I have a variety of garden materials. So I've got some ageratum, some different textures. So the Hypericum gives that glossy finish, and then some of the Veronica is going to do some framing a little bit. I'm taking off some of these larger leaves to just increase that transparency. And then we have some Alstroemeria. That's a great lightweight garden accent that just comes in. So you can see now we're just kind of making these different pieces dance back and forth throughout this centerpiece. And you just want to keep your eye flowing through it just like it would be walking down a garden path. And we want to give that meadow effect, like you're biking out in the woods, as I love to go down the pathways, and you just see all these different wildflowers peeking out of the grasses. And so kind of imitating that similar look. So toward the end here, I'm gonna come in with some little bit larger blooms and with a little bit stronger color. But it's really important to have that color distribution going throughout, that your eye flows from one element to the other. So you do wanna have each color potentially repeated twice. And so like here, this coral you can see we have coming in the Hypericum, and then also coming in the ranuncula. But I want to make sure that the visual path goes through the design and forward and backward within the design to be able to continue that pleasing garden feeling as you're walking through those pathways. To finish up, I have a couple other little kinds of foliages. So I'm just using more finer foliages, some of the variegated pittosporum, and then the grevillea, and a little bit of the flat fern. And just to give that more gardeny look and kind of complete our collection. The fern gives you a little bit more line development to kind of bring your eye through that design. You just want to make sure that it feeds back and forth and is not just a fan across the back. So I didn't do a lot of greening to start off with, and so I'm just hiding a little bit the flowers themselves because of the depths that we place things, cover up a lot. And so just starting with that Plumosa, and then adding some little finishing greens and flowers on the end, some masked out pieces that'll help to hide our mechanics. Now Smithers is coming out with a wreath base that's actually out of the Midnight Foam, and so I look forward to being able to use that for this. And on that, like that Midnight Foam just kind of disappears like a shadow, where the green pops out a little bit more still. It's gonna feel more like the ground on the meadows that you're passing by. And just adding that variety of foliage helps to kind of complete that look of the roadways. Got a little bit of the different spots in through the middle. I'm just going to use a little bit of this spring green reindeer moss to tuck in quick to finish up some holes, and then just distribution of that color balance where I need a little bit lighter color in there. I've saved this yellow limonium, and I'm just gonna stack a few pieces so that I have a whole cluster to go in, and then just kind of finalize that visual pathway that I have going with the different floral materials. All right, so here you can see our serpentine presentation of the meadow look. Now this can run down a table, or it could be a cake surround around the back of a table. That's where I'm seeing it a lot being used. And you can also just spread it out a little bit more, fill in bud vases throughout to just increase the transparency. But rather than just those straight runners, take a look at creating this meadow look with this vegetative design and update your florals. I'm Sandy Streck for LBR Educates, and I hope I've inspired you to create some fabulous florals.